Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Live with NORML. I'm J.M. Padini, Development Director at the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. It's Friday, March 14th, 2025. You know what that means. Friends, we're going to cover this week's cannabis policy and science news. I'm going to try to answer all of your burning questions live. So let's get down to it. Take a quick second and hit that like, follow, or subscribe button wherever you're watching so you never miss when NORML goes live. And take a second, drop a note in the comments. Let me know where you are, and maybe ask me some of those burning questions. Hey Nick, good to see you back. Hey James, good to see you. Hey Chris, good to see you, friend. All right. Hey Bravo Cat. Good day to you, T.O. And hello, Morrow in Virginia. Oh, Chris. Chris, let's see what Chris is in South Africa. Chris says South Africa has just proposed banning of all hemp foods and infused cannabis foods. So you mean, Chris, do you mean they are proposing to ban essentially any edible products that contain THC? Is that an accurate assessment? Let me know there. Right? Chris says, talk about going backwards. You know, we're definitely seeing that in the US, Chris, as you well know. Not so much a backward step, but as a step to ensure that the products consumers are buying are regulated. Hey, doctor, saw you were here first. Hello, Tragic. Hey there to you. James is ready for lobby day to fight to keep the current taxes in his state from increasing. Whoa, Chris, hemp seeds, like seeds, like the seeds you buy and put on your salad, like that? Seeds don't contain cannabinoids. It's wild. Or do you mean seeds for like cultivation? Hey, Reggie in Kansas. Hey, Tragic in Oregon. Hey, David. Good to see you. Hey, Cody in Milwaukee. Cody says, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So the last place that will legalize it. I don't think you'll be last. I don't think Wisconsin will be last, Cody. You have other states like Idaho are way worse. Hey, Urban Holistic Mystic in Georgia. Good to see you. Good to see you. T.O., you're in Richmond. Me too. Oh, hey, Ramona. Welcome back. Good to see you. Ramona says, thank you for the pre-written letters for Kansas. Thank you, Ramona, for using NORML's Take Action Center. I appreciate that. And be sure that you're sharing that action alert with everyone you know in Kansas as well. Reggie, Reggie, Ramona, you're both talking about Kansas on different platforms. Yeah, you do need help out there. Elections have consequences, right? That's not only what you're dealing with in Kansas, in Wisconsin, here in Virginia, but across the country. Cannabis consumers' rights, legalization itself, even medical cannabis, are under attack. Right? People that we've elected or allowed to be elected. Tough times, friends, tough times. JT, First of all, hey friend, good to see you. JT says, how long does it normally take to get membership cards? JT, we're squarely in 2025 now, and what I try to do is pull memberships once a month and mail them out. So generally about 6 to 8 weeks, maybe a little sooner if you're toward the end of the month. Hey, Peter. Tragic says, appreciate the work you guys did in my state back in the day. Oregon being one of the first to legalize. Yeah. It goes on to offer some more advice. Tragic says, stand up and fight. Don't let them stop you by jailing you. Be smart and protesting, but be loud. Great advice. Hey, John. Good to see you. John, was this a local measure? John says Easton, Pennsylvania rejected a bill to decriminalize small amounts of marijuana. Was that a local effort, since you said Easton, or was it a, I assume it was. Tell me more, John. Okay, hey Nick, thanks for bringing this up. Nick is mentioning that last week, or this week, Wednesday, this past Wednesday, so this week, Representative Chris Rabb, a Democrat in Philadelphia in the Pennsylvania State Legislature, reintroduced a House Bill 878 to reduce DUIs for medical cannabis patients in the state. Thank you. This Wednesday. Thank you, Nick. Let's get to it. I mean, let's get on that. Chris, thank you for quoting me. Hey, Insulin, good to see you. Good to see you. Hey, everyone who just joined us on Instagram. Thank you, Nick. Easton, local effort. John, local effort. Well, that's disappointing. Don't let it stop you. I mean, from continuing to push for that effort. Continue. Keep pushing forward. Hey, Ryan, aloha to you. Hey, Fred, happy Friday. A lot of you joined us yesterday for a special episode of Live with NORML. We talked about what's happening in Ohio. The whole show was about the efforts in Ohio to essentially gut the state's voter-approved legalization law. This is the second year in a row that lawmakers in Ohio have tried to really just rip this law to shreds. And here's the good news. Through NORML's platform alone, we've generated over 17,000 constituent emails to lawmakers opposing the Senate Bill 56. And I took a quick look last night. Someone was asking me about Ohio, and there's another bill now in Ohio, HB, I think it's 160. I'm about to pull it up. HB 160. And this is a bill also that wants to do the same thing as the Senate version. Slight differences between the two, but essentially gut Ohio's voter-approved legalization law. And we've had 745 emails sent opposing HB 160. So if you're in Ohio, or you know people in Ohio, please be sure that you are sharing with them our action alerts. Let me grab this one for you real quick. Sorry, Instagram, it doesn't let me share the links with you, but you can find them in NORML's Take Action Center at norml.org/act. Click on Ohio, and you will see both of those bills pop right up. I will also grab the Senate bill action alert for you and put that in the chat as well. So please be sure if you're in Ohio that you are sending both of these action alerts. If you've already sent them, send them again. Just go in and change the subject line. You don't even have to edit any of the email body itself, but you can just change the subject line. You could say, constituent comments, or I'm a constituent. It doesn't have to be specific to the subject of the email. Just change the subject line. Make sure you are sending it to your lawmakers, both of them, and make sure you are sharing it with your friends and family and asking them directly to send those messages as well. Jeff, yes, Jeff asks if any chapters still exist in Ohio, and yes, there is an Ohio NORML. I don't need to show you that. Tragic. Okay, no. Tragic asks, have you considered doing membership via an NFT? I'd love to have the NORML badge in my crypto wallet. We have not. I'm not opposed. We've had some people reach out to us before wanting to do NORML themes, NORML branded NFTs. We've seen exactly $0 from those offers, but that's kind of interesting. Kind of interesting there. I'll think about it. JT's in Indiana, right? It's Indiana. Am I getting that right? JT says all the state bills were glanced at and tossed, apparently. I got one reply that said nothing. I found that funny. Indiana will never win. Well, at least you have a really great NORML chapter in Indiana, JT. The one thing I can say about Indiana. Hey to all the new people that just joined us on Instagram. Thanks so much. Hey, drop a note in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from, and let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to try to answer those for you. Let me catch up with some comments here. Yeah, okay, let's go with this one on YouTube. Swinktastic says, I'm in Florida, where there is some difficulty in getting it legalized. You think? This viewer goes on to say, I refer to DeSantis as the final boss of legalization. Well, that's that's certainly one way to think about it. Excuse me. He's something, isn't he? Listen, there is an effort underway, as I am sure you know. And you know what? I'm going to go grab it for you right now, just to make sure everyone knows where it is. There is an effort, again, by Smart and Safe Florida to get a constitutional amendment on the ballot in Florida for adult use in 2026. And you can help. And I know you'll help. You want to fill out the form, most importantly, to help circulate petitions. So I'm going to share the link to Smart and Safe Florida right there on the homepage. It says sign the petition. You can click that. It's going to give you the form to fill out. You want to be sure to complete your petition legibly in blue or black ink only. So if you are in Florida, if you know people in Florida, please share this with them. Ask them to sign the petition and get that turned in for Smart and Safe Florida. So you, again, can see legalization on your ballot in 2026 in the Sunshine State. And, let's try again. Try again. There we go. Hey, Troy. Happy Friday. Troy says, I understand elections have consequences, but waiting for Wisconsin to get on board. I have a friend in Wisconsin, so he and I talk pretty regularly about what's going on in that state and why it is so difficult to get things done. So know that you're close to our hearts, Wisconsin, here at NORML. Excuse me. All right, let's get into some news. Let's close all of these tabs that we have open and get into some news. So we talked about yesterday's live. If you missed it and you want to rewatch it, if you're in Ohio, you can find it on our YouTube. It is in our Live with NORML archive on NORML's YouTube. It's also on NORML's Facebook. Probably the easiest places to find it. I think it's on our LinkedIn and our Twitter as well. Okay, one thing I do want to let you know, today and tomorrow is the 2025 Kentucky Cannabis Conference and Expo. This is produced by Kentucky NORML. Normally we do events at the end of the show, but I want to be sure that you know that this is today and tomorrow. You can get tickets for the event on Kentucky NORML's website. It is kynormal.org. All right. Southbound, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Okay, let's get into some news. Let's do the states first. So how about we do the good news? The good news is that constituents were very vocal in opposing this effort. And because constituents were so vocal, the bill did not advance. In Colorado, Senate Bill 76 sought to limit the amount of THC in cannabis products that people, adults, whole adults, grown people, ages 21 to 25. They wanted to limit the amount of THC that people could buy in products in that age bracket to 10%. No. Here's the thing. This isn't to say that we don't already control the amount of THC that's in products. That happens in every state that sells cannabis, and it's by serving size or by dose if we're talking about medical cannabis. But making up these arbitrary percentages, that doesn't help address public health concerns, public safety concerns. What it does is incentivizes the people, in this case, in that age bracket, to go to the illicit market, to engage in illegal activity. And those two things, in and of themselves, do not support the objective of consumer safety or public health. Hey, y'all, go do crimes. It's so wild that people, they want to dabble in the cannabis policy and they have no real understanding of what their proposed policies actually do. Anyhow, fortunately, people in Colorado were like, oh no, thank you. We do not want that. And members of the Senate Business, Labor, and Technology Committee voted unanimously to reject the bill after its sponsors acknowledged that they had received significant pushback from constituents and from businesses. It looks like our action alert was generated. Okay, can I see it? Here we go. It looks like our action alert generated 560 constituent emails opposing that bill. So this is a great example of a post-legalization state where NORML is still there, still showing up, representing cannabis consumers, and shutting down prohibitionist efforts right there. It is impactful when constituents contact their lawmakers, so please be sure you are checking NORML's Take Action Center at norml.org/act, looking at your state and sending those alerts to your lawmakers. Whether they're opposing bad legislation or supporting good legislation, if there's an action alert in your state, please send it, and then please share it with your networks as well. And be sure you're making that personal ask of those people to send the action alert as well. I was really interested. Yesterday I was producing the show, and I had all of the feeds up. And so today I have Twitter up. I can keep looking over at it to see where the bulk of our viewership is coming from. Traditionally, it's been Facebook, but we've had a lot of Twitter viewership. It's happening again today, which is interesting. So thanks, Twitter first. Real, I feel like you were going to have a comment about, is this a real question that you're asking me, or am I going to answer this and then you're going to say no, it's this. So real is saying, what is the method of cultivating cannabis at a reduced percentage? Other than using genetics that traditionally express a plant with a lower THC content or whatever cannabinoid content you're looking for, but that's not really, I mean, for flower, yes, but then for extracts, extraction-based products, it has nothing to do with that necessarily. It could, but it doesn't, because then you've got to formulate the product in a way that has whatever the specified amount of the percentage of THC, as opposed to metering it based on individual doses, which is how the real world of cannabis works. But yeah, there is a significant risk in that if your state's regulations do not prohibit the addition of what can be damaging filler ingredients, then you could be inhaling filler agents in a concentrate product that really don't belong in your lungs. If your state doesn't prohibit that, you should. We do here in Virginia. If you get a vape in Virginia, from a licensed dispensary, it has cannabis oil in it. That's what it has. They can put terpenes in there as well, but you're not going to get weird filler ingredients in there. Woodyard says pull them early. Thank you. I love Insulin's very direct answer is like, I think the limits are placed on extract. Otherwise, for plants, I guess I'd grow the crappy one. I mean, I want to say that, but I'll just leave it for you next time, Insulin. Nick, Nick says, I can never get the actual NORML Facebook page. I can only see the chapters pages. I don't know why that is, Nick. Try again, facebook.com/NORML, NORML. Or like you could message one of the other pages. You could, if you message Virginia NORML, I can see your message there. And then I can sort of look from the back end to see if there's a reason why your profile can't access the NORML Facebook page. But that's weird. JT, that's funny. Um, hey, Joanna, I see your question. I think that the answer is like maybe sort of, but they're not being serious about it. Hey, oh, Christmas tree is asking if there are any normal backed initiatives around 420 in Indiana. That would be a great question for Indiana Normal. I know they're pretty accessible on their Facebook. I haven't looked. I haven't looked at their Facebook to see, but I'm living dangerously, so let's let's look together to see if they have anything. I see they had an event in February. They had a letter writing party in February. Um, I don't see anything on their Facebook right now, but hey, reach out to them and ask. Yes, insulin. I see your comment about where the sample comes from. That's why in serious, again, serious is relevant, but in serious regulatory efforts, sample must be homogenized. I love all. If you all want to join in the like most robust comment section is on YouTube. I have no platform preference for this as long as the stream works on it. I don't care. But the people on YouTube have a whole community and they have the best conversations. And sometimes I'm jealous that I can't just be in there with them because I'm doing the show. Um, hey, not given. I wonder what goes before not given. Not given says, I wish NORML would help Arkansas and other states get past the legal problems that is stopping legalization. Arkansas is a special one because you will recall Arkansas had the opportunity to legalize, and Arkansas definitely fell prey to this really tired rhetoric that we hear time and time again from people who are usually already inside the cannabis space. So there'll be a legalization initiative in a state, and you will see people get up and start whining and complaining about the legalization effort because it does not suit their specific business priorities. It does not meet their standards of capitalism. It doesn't put their business first, whatever it might be. They want this, they want that, they want whatever it is. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to want to have a successful business. No shade on that. But to look at people and say, you know what? This law, this bill, this ballot initiative that could keep people from going to jail, from being torn away from their families, from having their children taken away, from being fired, from being evicted, from losing their scholarships or even access to healthcare. All of these things, right, that are specific to the people, to the consumers. You know what? This doesn't meet my business needs, my personal business needs. So I think it's better for you to keep going to jail. I would prefer tens of thousands of people still have their lives ruined over marijuana because I don't like the number of dispensaries in this bill. Oh, what a mighty pillow of privilege those folks must rest their heads upon at night. And that is exactly what we saw happen in Arkansas last time you all had the opportunity to legalize by ballot measure. Here's the thing. You got two parts, right? You've got the bewildering industry opposition that bubbles up in your state. And then you've got the problem of who you all keep electing to represent you. So it's a two-pronged approach to failure in Arkansas. But believe me, when Arkansas did have that ballot measure before voters, we were heavily invested, and we were really pushing hard on getting the vote out and making sure voters in Arkansas knew what was before them, trying to quiet the nonsense rhetoric from people who just want to put their business objectives, over people. Where have we seen that before? Anyhow, I'm glad you're here watching. Thank you for your question. Not given. Joanna, I see your comment. I just want you to know I see it. Hey, Rhonda in Toledo. Hey, Limestone City. Insulin, I was on a call with a journalist today, and we were having this exact conversation. I love this this comparison. Again, talking about the percentage when it comes to regulating THC content, right? It's fine to put it on the label. It's great when it's on the label for flour. That's what we all recognize, right? It's great when it's on the label for a cartridge or a concentrate. Perfect, right? That's how we read those labels and we know what that means. When it comes to an edible product, it's milligrams per serving. Percentage is irrelevant. If you have a state that's doing that, please stop. It doesn't matter. I don't go buy Tylenol and say, I wonder what the percentage of acetaminophen is in each tablet, because I would love to do math. It's not how it works. Anyhow, to that point, you're right. The percentage thing, does make no sense, because like alcohol, right? In this example, insulin's using vodka, which is what I usually say. I say beer and vodka, right? You have a beer. This is a 20-ounce cup, but it's about the size of a pint glass. One would generally pour themselves a beer in a glass that's roughly pint-sized. If you go to a restaurant, you're going to get beer in a pint-sized glass, generally. You're most likely not going to try to enjoy a pint glass of vodka, because 2 ounces is going to be the equivalent. And the same common sense applies to cannabis products. When they're concentrated, then you can consume less. That's why they're concentrated. It's more efficient. There's less to inhale. It's like this is the latest prohibitionist attack, by the way, is attacking potency. And it just makes consumers out to be stupid. Like, do they really think that consumers are that stupid? Do they think that you all go home and say, oh, well, I drink beer out of a mug, so I better pour my bourbon the same size? And adults already know how to titrate what they're ingesting. Let's just let them continue to do that and provide them with clear and accurate labels and products that are clean and free from contaminants and pesticides, things like that. In Utah, I'm looking at you. Stop putting synthetics in your medical cannabis. That's disgusting. Okay, thanks for coming to that show. Oh, hey, Andy. I love this. So no olive branch needs to be extended because we've never interacted with them. But I will tell you this. So Andy says, any chance of NORML giving some sort of olive branch to the current administration to see if they are willing to work on legalizing federally? Here's the thing. There's this conservative, we'll call it working group event. I don't know how else to describe it. Marijuana Moment is a great write-up on this. And this was last week, I think. There was one of these events, and this guy, Howard Wooldridge, was at the event and was talking with representatives of the new administration. And they gave him the opportunity to share thoughts on ending federal prohibition with the new administration. Howard said, great. Howard reached out to Don Murphy, who is a conservative lobbyist, cannabis, and they're putting together information for the administration. Thanks for asking. Here's the thing, though, Andy. It's not up to them. It's not up to the president. The president could sign an executive order, but it doesn't mean anything. In theory, in the way our government is meant to work, it's a directive, not a law. What they could do, what this administration could do, is get back to the rescheduling process, and that is an administrative process that they can shepherd. When it comes to ending federal prohibition, that's Congress. Congress has to pass a bill to remove marijuana from the Federal Controlled Substances Act altogether, thus allowing states to continue setting their own cannabis policies without threat of federal interference. America has not elected a Congress that will pass such a measure. What we as Americans have to do is elect both a House and a Senate that will hear and vote in favor of such a bill. And then we have to have also elected a president who would sign that bill into law. So it's on us to, number one, vote for people who support the cannabis policies that we want to see, and to continue communicating directly with these lawmakers, whether we voted for them or not. Once they represent us, we have to tell them what we want to see. Rhonda, tell me more about Ohio. Tell me what you're talking about. Joanna, okay, great. Thank you for this question. I can show this one and talk about Utah at the same time. So a colleague of mine in Utah, Christine Stenquist, reached out about the same thing. And so here's what Joanna is saying. Joanna is saying, so in Massachusetts, we're trying to get more transparency about radioactive and chemical remediation. Do you know if any states require transparency and labeling on their products to tell patients what they are consuming? My understanding is we have not done a lot of, at NORML, done a lot of research about remediation labeling. I am interested to hear anyone watching. Do you know, in your state, do you have remediation labeling? I know that in Virginia, we do not require remediation labeling. I'm not opposed to it. I don't know why anyone would be. And I was actually talking about this about specifically, say radioactive, but I know what you mean. Remediation with a forensic toxicologist, a colleague of mine. And I'm going to ask her some more questions and talk about that next week. Hey, Russell, I see your comment shouting deschedule on Instagram. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. NORML has been a proponent of descheduling. This is removing marijuana from the Federal Controlled Substances Act altogether. We've long supported that. That is a separate process than the administrative process that is the rescheduling conversation. They're not mutually exclusive. They're different tracks. So we can say, anyone can say, yes, please continue moving forward with the rescheduling process, but in order to end the conflict between state and federal marijuana policies, we must deschedule marijuana by removing it from the CSA altogether. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Thank you, Rhonda. Yes, Ohio is legal, and we did talk about this. a lot at the beginning of the show. We do have 2 action alerts for Ohio for Senate Bill 56, which is trying to gut the voter-approved legalization law for the 2nd year in a row. We've had 17,000 constituent emails go through that action alert, and we also added an action alert for the newer bill, HB 160, which is very similar to SB 56, and we have an action alert up for that. There's about 750 constituent emails generated by that, so please be sure you're sharing this with your network. And yesterday, we did a special episode of Live with NORML that was focused solely on this effort in Ohio. It is on our Facebook page, in our video section. It is on our YouTube as well. So if you want to watch that, please do, and share it with your network. John. Hey, John. I'm going to look at South Carolina right now. I see 4 bills that we are tracking in South Carolina. I see, let's just go in order. We've got the Put Patients First Act, which is H 3019. It is sitting in committee. That's what I can see. The same thing for H 3153, which is a drug testing bill that we support. That is sitting in committee. Also, H 3804, which is the decrim bill, that is sitting in committee. And the last one is S 53, the Compassionate Care Act, so the Senate version of medical cannabis, and that is also sitting in committee. We have all 4 of those action alerts in the NORML Take Action Center at norml.org/act. Be sure you send these action alerts to your lawmakers. Send them a bunch. Send them as many times as you want. Send them once a day. Just, you can change the title of the subject line of the email. You can change it right there. You can even change the words in the body of the email as well. But it's really great if you use our platform specifically to send them, even if you're changing all of it, because then we have a count and we have an idea to the number of people who are contacting lawmakers. Oh, Russell, I see your comment. I want to read this. Hi, Liz. I see you, Liz. I wish I could show your comment in which Liz says hello to my favorite person. Instead, I'm just going to read it. Liz goes on to say, I know it's very low on the totem pole of reform. However, I can't wait until DOT safety-sensitive workers are free to be responsible consumers. We agree. We agree with that as well. Russell, we've been talking a lot about CHS, or what people purport to be CHS at NORML the past week. Thank you. I had to look up what CIRS was. Chronic inflammatory response syndrome. Am I talking about the right? That's, I assume, what you were asking about. Here's the thing about, I'm not even going to attach a diagnosis to it. Vomiting profusely after consuming cannabis. There are 2 trains of thoughts on this. So we'll do the one in which people generally refer to as CHS, cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. And the theory around that is that people are consuming a lot of THC, super saturating their receptors, and then having sort of an inverse reaction. Whereas THC is typically an antiemetic, they are experiencing hyperemesis. So instead of it being an anti-nausea for them, it's causing profound nausea and vomiting. That's the theory on that type of throwing up related to cannabis use. Then there's the other one, And I am personally of the opinion that this is far more common than people realize, or they're not attributing it to this. I say this because not every state regulates cannabis well, and not every consumer buys their cannabis from a provider that uses stringent third-party analytical laboratory testing. So, like you're talking about with CIRS, chronic inflammatory response syndrome, this is a systemic inflammatory response to exposures to biotoxins, things like mold, bacteria, pesticide residue, mycotoxins. A lot of these molds, mildews, pesticides are neurotoxins. And when you set them on fire and inhale them, it just makes it even worse. And so for some people, inhaling these neurotoxins will cause profuse vomiting. That's different than this other theory about throwing up from having a lot of THC over a lot of time. Anyhow, there's also something to account for here that people say. We were reading some media around it this week, and there was a conversation about, oh, well, this is so much more common now because of legalization. Is it, or is it that people are more willing to talk about it because they don't think they're going to go to jail for having weed? We see that in states when marijuana laws change, whether it could just be decrim, or it could be medical, or it could be adult use. But then when there's people aren't afraid that police are going to come kick in their door and take their kids away from them, they are more willing to call poison control and say, hey, I don't feel well, or I think my kid ate something, or call the vet and say, I think my dog ate something, or go to the emergency room and say, something's not right. People are more willing to seek healthcare when they aren't afraid of being incarcerated or losing other freedoms. And, it begs the question, is that playing a part in what appears to be more reporting of this? Russell says, I see it as prohibitionist propaganda or a toxic quality control factor. Yeah, listen, don't buy gross, dirty products. And if something makes you throw up, then don't use it again. Maybe report that if your state has the ability to report adverse reactions. Thank you. That's Russell. That's the other thing, the canary in the coal mine bit. So Russell goes on to say 25% of us are sensitive to mold, susceptible to CIRS, and contamination is so common, easily would translate as an alternative cause. Yes, there are some people will not react at all to mold being concentrated in their vape cart or on their flower. Some people will not react at all to pesticide residue being concentrated into their vape product or still being on the flower. And some people will be violently ill from it. Thanks for bringing that up. Ladybugs versus Tio says ladybugs versus neurotoxins, right? Like, maybe try the less toxic option first. Hi, Samuel. Glad you're here. Woodyard, if I didn't say hi to you before, hey. Hey, Mike Hashmi. Are you talking about? Okay. Oh, I can show you. I forgot what platform you were on. Mike says, hello, been so busy on the campaign trail, wondering what were the changes, if any, from last year's adult use bill. doomed to be vetoed compared to this year. There are no meaningful changes between last year's adult use retail sales bill in Virginia and this year's. There were some minor changes. I cannot tell you how much it didn't matter because they were going to be vetoed anyhow. So I can also tell you that when we see legislation introduced in 2026, I expect it to be a far more serious effort than the past 2 years. Hey, ma'ams. Glad you're here. Since we were just talking about that guy. Ma'am says Youngkin, who's the Virginia governor, hasn't vetoed the retail bill yet. I feel like Lloyd in Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance? No, I'm not saying there's a chance. There's zero chance. Oh, you guys. Ryan says we need term limits on all congressional seats. Nick, your comment's making me laugh. Yeah, Joanna. I do believe that patients want to know if they're consuming what is radioactive. I don't know if that's the appropriate qualifier for it, using UV to remediate flour, but I'm going to dig into that a little bit more and come back to you with some thoughts next week. I know, Rhonda, we are working on Ohio. Samuel, thank you for watching yesterday's show. I'm glad you liked it. I was here even though you didn't see me. Okay. I'm trying to catch up on the comments. Sorry, everyone. Oh, hey, Southbound. Thanks for your comments. Southbound says Texas Senate is voting on Senate Bill 3 soon, which is looking to ban all THC products, including the less than 0.3% allowed today. Governor Patrick is behind the push. In your opinion, why is Texas so backward? There's a lot to say about that, and I will say this: if not you necessarily per individually, but collectively, if you elect people who are terrible on cannabis policy, like Patrick, you will get terrible cannabis policies. If you elect people who are terrible on cannabis policy, like Youngkin, you will get terrible cannabis policies. Elections have consequences. I think that is the overarching message here. And then there is the sort of nuance of each individual. What is that individual's personal beef with this? And is there a component of it, the policy as a whole, is there a component on which you can find common ground? You can find a place that individual can have emotional comfort. For a lot of people, that's going to be, particularly in conservative legislatures, conservative control states, that's going to be with medical. They will say, I'm not there for legalization, or I don't support full legalization. Also, what the hell is full legalization? Is there like empty legalization? Is there light? Like, okay, anyhow. They'll say, I don't support that, but I support the medical, or I support the CBD, or whatever it is. That's fine. Right? We have to meet people where they're at. When you see the sort of crack in the dam, go there and work that issue, you've got to keep pushing forward. And there's definitely, the good news is that Texas has a medical cannabis program. There's ample room for improvement. That is where I would concentrate my efforts in that state until you have a governor who's not going to veto a bill if it makes it to their desk. Also, stop electing people who suck on cannabis policy. We can help you with that. We have a voter guide at vote.normal.org. So that's my thought. And also Southbound goes on to say, you don't cure alcoholism by banning light beer. Shouldn't we be focusing on THC regulations, not bans? You should be focusing on a lot of things in that state for sure. Yeah, there are better ways to do it than that. This is what Texas is wrestling with right now. We'll see what happens. Insulin, I think it depends on where you're getting your cannabis. Like some states, again, have insulin says, my homegrown has never made me sick. Your mileage may vary when buying from the store, and then goes on to say that bud tenders haven't steered him wrong yet. Again, it's going to depend on what state you're in. Make sure, first of all, that you're buying from a legal licensed dispensary. If product safety is something you're concerned about, and then if your state doesn't have really adequate testing requirements, then you're right, your mileage very well may vary. Yes, I'm catching up from the comments. I don't know how far behind I am, but Charlie says, do you think that it may be caused by pesticide use or the way it's grown? Yes, I do. I've heard that most people use BHO concentrates that are getting diagnosed with that. I think it may also be caused by the process and not being purged correctly. Yes to all of those things. Dirty product, bad reaction. David Hodges, thank you for your kind words. Glad to see you here. Looking around to see who's watching where. David says, big up on you. Thanks for carrying on the good fight. On behalf of all the folks whose home is in a state like, I don't want to get our thing shut down, Indiana, Texas, Kentucky, Iowa, etc. You're welcome. That's what we do. Been doing it for 55 years. NORML turned 55 this month. How about that? Oh, that's not open. It's hard to drink out of it when it's not open. Yeah, real. I think that's reasonable to look. If someone's getting sick from a product, stop using that product. Try something different entirely. Maybe it's edible, maybe it's something different, but yeah, Charlie, that is testing facilities in Colorado. They go on to say are required to test for pesticides. It's not allowed to have any. Some states are better at this than others. David, that's too funny. Okay. David says, who's going to grow that Spanberger strain when she signs the sales bill next year? I suspect Abigail doesn't want a cannabis chemovar named after her, but I have some hilarious inside jokes for the naming of one. So don't let me forget about that. Yes. Oh, okay. Why did you turn off our stream on? Okay, well, one of our streams shut down on Instagram. That's fine. It's probably decided we've had enough time. Christmas Tree Media says, with unregulated products causing harm, could interstate transport of lab-tested cannabis improve safety? Sure, if you are able to buy, I mean, yes, having access to, well-regulated lab-tested products is ideal for consumers. And could interstate commerce permit such? Yeah, but I think other than some really limited state compacts, we're so far away from that. Insulin is everything about the CIA comment. This is too niche for the larger stream, but it's so on point. Ew, does it? Texas leads the country in poison production? Oh, neat. Okay. Thank you for the happy birthday to Normal Samuel. Hey, John. There's a lot of Johns here, but hey, other John. Nick, happy birthday to you as well. Okay. Yeah, Samuel, it did. Instagram shut down the stream for Virginia because it has fewer followers, but normal stream can go over an hour because we have a lot. Okay, I want to tell you about some more news, and I don't know, probably go home or whatever. So we talked about Colorado. We did one news story. You guys had great questions today. We talked about Colorado tabling or rejecting Senate Bill 76 to restrict potency. Let's talk about North Dakota real quick. North Dakota has a medical cannabis program, but it doesn't currently permit edible products. Well, good news, lawmakers are looking to address that, and they have two competing measures. There is a Senate edibles bill and a House edibles bill, and their respective chambers have advanced these measures. The Senate version limits edibles to no more than 5 milligrams of THC per serving, which wouldn't be the only state. There are some states that have a 5 milligram limit on per serving. And then the House version has a 10 milligram limit, which is far more common in the United States. 10 milligrams per serving, or since it's medical cannabis, per dose. But I read the bill just to be sure it actually says serving. So you have two options here in North Dakota. It seems like if both chambers are advancing this, that bodes well. Hopefully they each pass and get reconciled into one that says 10 milligrams. What's important is the option, and then what's secondarily important is, can you get that number up to 10? The reason why 10 is better than 5, again, is incentivizing people to stay within the regulated marketplace. If your priority is public safety, is consumer safety, is public health, and it looks to me that there seems to be discussion around which is the more appropriate number, and probably someone in that conversation is going to claim, consumer safety is an actual concern, public health is an actual concern of those. This is the time for them to have a broader understanding of cannabis policy and to realize that when you restrict access and artificially elevate the price, then consumers will go to the illicit market instead. And that is not the health outcome that you're looking for in a legalization policy. So 10, but pass one of them, North Dakota. That's what happened in North Dakota. And the worst state news that I have for you this week, God, I hope this is the worst one, because if there's more, I don't know. Listen, Idaho keeps making bad choices. In Idaho, state lawmakers have approved a resolution. And this resolution would give themselves, would give the legislature exclusivity when it comes to legalizing and regulating cannabis, either for adult use or for medical use. Right now in Idaho, there's a ballot initiative process. So voters in Idaho could get a ballot measure to legalize medical cannabis. Idaho lawmakers are big mad and don't want that. They don't want voters to be in control. They want to be the decision makers. They want to be the only people who are allowed to make those choices. And almost as if on cue, not almost, exactly on cue, what did we see happen? A shitty medical cannabis bill introduced by the legislature so they can pretend, look, we care so much. Look, we introduced this bad bill after we passed a resolution that to take your rights away from you, Idaho voters. Here's the comical part of it. The resolution has to go before voters. Voters in Idaho will have the opportunity to vote on whether or not they want to cede their rights over to the legislature. So this will be fun. Let's watch this unfold together. Idaho sounds like Pennsylvania, says Nick. I don't know. Idaho sounds like Idaho. Like they're one of the worst in the state, in the country, when it comes to cannabis. Hi, McAllister. I see you're high. Hi. Okay, and then we have three quick ones, and you're gonna have two where you're like, yeah, duh. And you know how I love a good of course, we know that. Here we go. There was a survey done recently that asked adults which do they believe poses a greater health risk, marijuana or alcohol? That's right, alcohol. By a nearly 3-to-1 margin, survey respondents agreed that regular alcohol use is, quote, more harmful to a person's health than the regular use of cannabis. I know, big surprise to everyone here. Not to be outdone in the yeah, duh category, we've got this one for you. Again, these are good to see, even though these are things we largely already know. Again, a survey of veterans, and nearly half of military veterans use cannabis for pain relief. In this article, which you should most definitely read, it goes on to talk about whether or not veterans feel like they can answer the question honestly. So, 40% of respondents acknowledged using cannabis to manage their symptoms. However, the study's authors suggested that this percentage might reflect underreporting because cannabis use is discouraged within the Veterans Administration. Veterans might not feel comfortable answering that question surrounding cannabis use honestly. So it's entirely possible that these numbers are really at the level that we would expect to see in a situation where people weren't afraid of answering honestly. Like we were talking about earlier, when you don't think you're going to get arrested, you're likely to speak more freely. And the last one that I have for you, again, this is one where we read this white paper and we were like, yes, of course. We were not surprised. I mean, part of it is some of the numbers are shocking, but we were not surprised by the outcome because this is consistent with previous studies on this, prior research on this same issue. This is an analysis that was done. It's actually done in California, but it looks at online available hemp-derived. I kid you not, the study authors use quotation marks, hemp-derived, throughout the paper. It's petty and hilarious. But it's really illustrating the point of this research, which is, in this case, determined that most hemp-derived intoxicating products, so we're not talking about hemp seeds that you put in your salad, but intoxicating products that are sold online contain synthetic cannabinoids. In fact, researchers determined that 95% of the products sampled, and it was a pretty large sample, including 97% of vape products, contained cannabinoids that were produced through chemical synthesis, as opposed to having been naturally extracted from the plant. And then also goes on to very wisely include that one of the, I mean, aside from not knowing that you're ingesting cannabinoids that were made by boiling CBD and battery acid for 3 days, aside from not disclosing things like that, where is it in here? The authors mentioned that the synthetic cannabinoids also included things like THCP and HHC, and that the presence of these synthetic cannabinoids, that doesn't just challenge the classification of these products as, quote, hemp, but it also distorts consumer expectations around how potent these products might actually be. Because THCP is a lot more potent than naturally occurring delta-9 THC. And this could be that a product's effects are dramatically understated if the potency is assessed solely on the delta-9 content. So maybe the product package says, and again, it's an unregulated product, so what's on the package is irrelevant because it's not subject to any regulatory scrutiny, so you can put whatever you want on there. Let's say you as a consumer see a product and it says, oh, this has 11 milligrams THC, delta-9 THC. Okay, but then it also has THCP or THCO or something else in it. That's going to be, that's going to be a lot for anyone to handle. So these novel and unknown isomers could be present, and those could pose significant health risks to consumers, as the authors write, due to their unpredictable chemical and physical properties. This is a really smart white paper. It really talks about, and they're talking about California in this specific sentence here. They say to restore order to the market and bring clarity and certainty to consumers, because, right, you deserve to know what you're buying. You deserve to know what you're buying. All THC-containing products should be regulated as cannabis within California's established framework. This will protect consumer safety, ensure tax compliance, and uphold the intent of the state's cannabis laws. It's almost like these researchers have listened to something NORML said once or twice. I don't know who they are. That was a genuine statement. I didn't mean to imply that we have anything to do with this. We read it and we're like, oh, this is good. We've urged the FDA before to establish regulatory guidelines governing, these products. So, yeah, hemp. Anyhow, we did it. We did did we do them all? Yeah, that was it. We did all the news. I told you that today and tomorrow is the 2025 Kentucky Cannabis Conference and Expo. You can find out more about that at kynormal.org, including getting tickets. And I have 3 more events I want to tell you about real quick. March 20th, so coming up next week, March 20th at 4:20 Mountain Time is the podcast It's 420 Wyoming. And BJ Sondeno, who is the former ED of Wyoming NORML will be on the podcast on March 20th. Oh, I can share the link. That's a thing I can do here. And make sure all this information gets in here to you. Let's see if YouTube cuts it off or not. Nope, looks like it went through. All right. So that's a good podcast if you're interested in Wyoming. And then I have two quick things to tell you about. The National Cannabis Policy Summit, which is a great policy-focused event, obviously, produced by the National Cannabis Festival, will be April 28th. This is in Washington, D.C. It is a free event. There will be more details available soon. However, you can go ahead and mark your calendars for April 28th for the National Cannabis Policy Summit, and the link is in the chat for you to sign up to get more information. If you're watching on Instagram, it is available at nationalcannabisfestival.com. Just look under the event experiences tab, and Summit is on there. It's on the experiences page on the National Cannabis Festival website. And then the National Cannabis Festival itself is July 18th and 19th this year. It is at the RFK campus in Washington, D.C. It is a 2-day festival this year. Tickets are on sale now. If you want to go, get your tickets early. This event has been selling out for years now. There are lots of VIP packages available as well. So if you're going to go to the National Cannabis Festival, get your tickets early. Thank you. This has been a blast. I love hanging out with y'all on Fridays. So go ahead and hit that like, follow, or subscribe button so you never miss when NORML goes live. If you liked all of these stories, you can get them delivered to your inbox tomorrow morning. Just head to norml.org/subscribe. Put in your email, put in your zip code, check the weekend weed read box so you get tomorrow's issue. It comes out 9 a.m. Eastern. So make sure you are getting these stories delivered fresh to your inbox. We send out NORML news twice a week. On Thursday, NORML news of the week, emails at about 4:20 Eastern because we're funny. And then NORML's weekend weed read recaps those stories plus anything new that happens, and that comes out on Saturdays. Make sure you know what's happening with cannabis policy around the country because, like I said earlier, legalization, medical cannabis access, and cannabis consumers' rights are attacked across the country. We've been talking about this for a few weeks now here at NORML. We want to be sure you know what is happening around the U.S. when it comes to cannabis policy. And we want to help you fight back against these attacks on your freedoms. Make sure you take action. The NORML Take Action Center at norml.org/act. I'm J.M. Padini. I'm the Development Director here at NORML. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you all. And I will see you all right back here next time. Bye-bye.